The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the High-Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate you all for joining us here on this Wednesday evening or anywhere else you'd like to check out your favorite podcast. It is always a pleasure to hang out and talk a little bit of sports ball with you all. It is DJ, joined as always by my co-host, Kelcey. And Kelcey, glad to have you back for this one. And we've hit it. The three major sports going on at once, plus a little bit of everything from the quote-unquote lesser of the three sports. We hit the equinox. We have finally made it.
Yeah, and then even a little bit of collusion talk, not in any of the major sports, just in our fantasy football leagues. But no,
It's a perfectly fair trade.
No, actually, for jokingly, I joke. All seriousness aside, I literally jokingly was going to type in collision the first time, and I just felt like that was just not the right time or place for that. So, collusion was where what came out of that. But no, it is actually an absolutely fun time. Because it is a collision of all three sports fanhoods at one time, and I love it. I absolutely love this time of year. Basketball is going on. Obviously, college football is getting into the crunch time. We're getting into week 9 now. NFL football, right there, a week behind. So it's a lot of excitement there, and a lot of teams are starting to show their hands, starting to show what they're made of, and starting to make moves. There's a lot of rumors going around there as well. But then, most importantly, maybe I don't know, depends on how you look at it. World Series time, baseball. Double dip of the Texas Rangers and another West Coast team yet again. I know Arizona people don't think West Coast, but as far as the MLB goes, they are considered a West Coast team. So yeah, lo and behold, another West Coast domination. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, and then NBA basketball. I mean, come on, what's not to love about NBA basketball starting back up? Seeing LeBron get beaten game 1, what's not to love about that?
Everything going on once, which means the wallets are getting empty with sports betting, which means every little thing counts these days. Fantasy football teams are starting to take their final form. You're starting to figure out who's going to be in the run for it, who's going to need to make a move, and who you should be calling to see if they're willing to trade some of their players as well, too, depending on where they stand. So there's a lot to look forward there. But you alluded to, so I was going to take us right into the tip-off. We're not going to waste any time. We'll get into our first opening segment. Tip-off, of course, brought to you by SeatGeek. Use code BELLYUPSports. Get yourself $20 off your first order. Get yourself some tickets to any of these various sporting events we were talking about. Although the first one we're talking about, you might not be able to get tickets to unless you got some pretty deep pockets. The World Series is set. If you got the deep pockets, that $20 might help you. It might not. We'll have to wait and see. But the World Series is set, and it's the two teams that everybody predicted before the season started. As we got the Rangers from the Texas Rangers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Snakes are alive. The Rangers are back, and everyone bet this one, right? So like, there's not a huge payout coming out, right? Like everybody thought this for the season.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and count those bets now if you put them in place early in the season, because I'm pretty sure combined odds between the two teams are something like plus 40,000 to make the World Series against each other. 35,000 of that comes from the Diamondbacks alone. The other 5,000 from the Rangers. Just because, I mean, at the end of the day, you're in the West with the Astros. Nobody expects you to get out of that. But they did. Not just that, but they performed well. The Rangers looked good. They pitched well. Sent out one of the winningest all-time managers in a loss in Dusty Baker. I'm sad to see him retire. But, look, the Rangers are what they are. At the end of the day, they've been to the World Series. Now, I think this makes 5 times now since 2010. So been an impressive run for them. And obviously, it's been a few years since they made it last time, but it's like exciting to see them back. We'll see what this young team, I say young, but this well-hitting team and really old pitchers can do, because this team's not going to be put together for a long time coming. You got to imagine with their, the age on some of these pitchers, but it's fun to watch nonetheless right now. The Diamondbacks, on the other hand, that team is young, exciting. There's a whole lot to be excited for. I know Jared is literally out of his seat, excited. I know he just bought an Eagles jersey, but I'm pretty sure he's kicking himself for not buying a Diamondbacks jerseys. Multiples. I do mean like 5 or 6. One of each color scheme, and then 2 of his favorite players. So no, I do think it's going to be fun to see. All around Diamondbacks versus the Rangers. 2 kind of similar teams in a lot of ways. I mean, they just love to hit the ball, get on base, make you mad with. Make you make errors, and then pitching, skilled pitching. The Diamondbacks less so on the pitching side. They don't really rely as much on the pitching side. Definitely with their bats, but the Rangers can do it both. I mean, just be afraid of that entire lineup for the Rangers from top to bottom. They can all just send it out of the park at any point in time. So it's a lot of fun to watch and see. I don't know what to expect, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
I will say the last couple of World Series, you kind of have an idea what you're going into. Like you don't know, obviously nobody knows for sure, but you kind of know what to expect. This one, we're both just like closing all MLB on all the betting apps because it's not worth even trying at this point. I'm just going to annoy myself. We're going to ignore that. You mentioned the Diamondbacks, the ultimate greater than the sum of their parts. Almost it feels like
Yep.
they're good individual players. No one's doubting that, but God, when you put them together, it just makes no sense how good they are. The Rangers, really good players as well too, but some of the teams that they beat, you'd think on paper they'd be better than, but they up until the Astros, they looked pretty comfortable even through a lot of that Astros series until the Astros went on their little run where it felt like the Astros were the Astros, like they were going to do what they were going to do. They look fantastic. And when kind of how you described to me, it harkens to a couple years ago when we saw the Rams taking on the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Bengals, young upstart team, you think they'll be around for a long time. The Rams, well, this is your one shot. You better not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. It's what it almost feels like for the Rangers with some of those older pitchers as well. So I'm really looking forward to this matchup. And when I look at this one, I'm going to look at the Rangers first to start with because, well, I mean, less than 600 days ago, they were a 100 loss team, which I guess does apply to both of them technically as well. But I also kind of want to look, when we talked about their pitching, bringing in pitchers at the trade deadline as well. But I want to talk about Garcia too, Adolis Garcia, who I'm going to call him a roller coaster because he highest of highs, some of the lowest of lows, but during the early part of the playoffs, a little bit low, but that ALCS, he put the team on his back and helps carry them to it as well. So as far as X factors going into the World Series, I'm going to say if he can keep on that high, I think he could be a real X factor for him. I'm not saying he'd be World Series MVP by any means, but I think him being able to get that kind of production out of him, I think that could be the Rangers X factor into the world if they want to take home the World Series.
Yeah, look, Adelise, he's been impressive all year. I mean, just look back at the home run derby. I mean, not very many people thought he was going to be, competitive and let alone, or in the derby, let alone competitive in the derby. And then you just watch him just launching balls. And then now you see him in the game doing the exact same thing, and you're just like, no. This is not what you expect from him. And now Rangers fans have known all year. The rest of us are now learning. You don't pitch this man. Like, you really, if there's a chance, if there's a runner on base and there's you're up in the game, I consider walking him. As long as you're not walking in a run, honestly, I'm okay with it. And if the base is loaded, maybe I do walk in a run because one run is better than four. At the end of the day, this is going to be a tough one. Both pitching staffs are very good, but really that Texas pitching staff is not something you want to mess with in the early innings. You wouldn't, when you get into the deeper side of things, depends on which Aroldis Chapman comes out of the bullpen. But if Aroldis that won a couple World Series previously comes out, well, yeah, you don't want to mess with that guy. But if the Aroldis who's throwing 95 up in the zone, well, you got a pretty good chance. But yeah, no, I think he's a great look for somebody to watch for the Rangers. I think on the flip side of that, though, I'm going to stick with the Rangers as well as a guy to watch. I'm looking at Jonah Heim, a guy who's been platooning most of the season. I mean, he was not expected to be as good as he is, and here he is, just 5 at bats. He had 3 hits, I believe, in their game-winning in the clinching game against the Astros, and of those hits, he had to get 3 RBIs to go with it. So, guy who's again. Nobody projected much of him. Nobody projected him to be that big of a aspect for their offense, but here he is playing, a mix of catcher and first base, and he's been playing out of his mind all season long. And he's got to give him credit where credit's due. It's impressive to see him, and then Josh Jung as well, both infielders. Those are the guys that you kind of see the most impact outside of the obvious Corey Seagers and Adolis Garcia's type of guys, but. I look at those two both potentially being X factors for the Rangers offensively, just because they usually don't hit 1 through 5; they hit that 7, 8, 9 range usually. So you get that bottom of the lineup going. It could be very impactful for the Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely, the 100%. And on the flip side of it, we look at the Diamondbacks. I'm not even going to try and sugarcoat or try and dig into the weeds for this one. For me, I think the big X factor is going to be Corbin Carroll. I think it's be right on the head. The NLCS, he's a young player, but he set such high expectations. So the NLCS up until Game 7, he wasn't quite the same player, but he came on strong at the end. And as you mentioned too, with the Rangers, you're going to have to outscore them, as cliche as that is. Obviously, you score more points than the other team to win. Well, no shit. But what I'm saying, I think you're going to have to work your way around that pitching. They're going to put up runs. You have to match their runs. And I think Carroll's ability to steal bases, especially to get you those extra chances, get from first to second, second to third, et cetera, and his ability to round the bases and his base running, I think will be key to get him in scoring position along with some of the other hitters as well. Because then you're an error away. Suddenly you're down 4-0, and then it's 3-4, and you're right back in it. So I'm going to say Corbin Carroll. I'm not even trying to find like a hidden gem on this one. I think arguably their best player. I think he has to be arguably their best player to keep the Snakes alive.
That's fair. Look, Corbin Carroll has been that dude all season long. He's been gone from just rookie of the year to possibly even getting a conversation for NL. I don't know, maybe NL MVP. I don't know if people are actually going to vote for him because he's a Diamondback. It's just kind of that weird, like you fall into a weird category when you play for the Diamondbacks. You can win a rookie of the year. Odds are you're not going to win an MVP. And that's just unfortunate in the situation. He has been far and above the guy for the Diamondbacks all season long, and this team made it to the World Series. So why should he not have an opportunity? It's just one of those conversations that in the MLB circles people won't be willing to have. Let's just say, but obviously probably rookie of the year this year. I do love what he's been doing offensively and defensively. But I'm gonna go somewhere different. I'm actually gonna go the same concept with the Rangers. I'm giving you two players. One is a guy who just had his first hitless game in the playoffs this 2 days ago in Game 6 against the Astros. That's Ketel Marte. The dude had not had a hit or had a hit in every single playoff game he has ever played in until last Thursday. I believe it was last Saturday, whatever Game 6 was versus the Astros. Absolutely insane to think about. And if he can keep that production going, that's something that the Diamondbacks need. He's the number 2 hitter, consistent guy on base, just setting up the table for when you get into the Walkers, the Morenos, the Tommy Phams, those type of situations where you get your DH, first baseman, catcher up to bat. Alternatively, on the backside of the lineup, I'm giving you an old head, a guy who's been to a World Series before, who has won a World Series. Actually, I do believe 2 World Series now. Last time he was actually in this position, he was playing for the Tampa Bay Rays, Devil Rays at the time. That is Evan Longoria, third baseman. One of the guys that you just look at and is like, how is this guy still playing? A lot of question marks. Still playing, still consistent third baseman, and still has a little bit of pop in the bat. He's not going to give you, like you said, like I said before the season, he wouldn't give you 40 home runs in the season. He'd give you 20, 15, exactly where he ends up at during the end of the season. But when it comes to playoff time, when it comes to crunch time, a bottom of the order gets up in the 8th, 9th inning. Like I just said, Aroldis Chapman comes in throwing 95 mid chest, lower, right at the belt line. That's Evan Longoria's pitch, and you'll be seeing it in the bleachers in left field. And so that could be something that you look at, maybe change the tide of a game, maybe change the tide of a series. I mean, it could be either way. But I look Ketel Marte as your everyday kind of X factor. But as far as kind of like could change the tide in the series by just one big play, and that also goes defensively. Let's not forget this guy was a Gold Glove caliber third baseman for many years. Still has that glove is still there. Maybe can't move as much, but the glove is still there. So a guy can change the tide both ways, offensively and defensively for the Diamondbacks if need be, in Evan Longoria. So yeah, Ketel Marte, Evan Longoria, those are two guys offensively, and like I said, Longoria defensively more so that I look for that could be a little bit of an X factor in this series.
Absolutely. As we mentioned, it's a very, very young team. If things start to get a little dicey, especially if they're down like one game or 2 games to nothing and it's starting to get dicey, you want to rely on a veteran who's been there before to help you get out there. He doesn't have to crack like 7 home runs in the series, but a key base hit here or there, a key defensive play when the bases are loaded or something like that. Just he can create those momentum plays, like those ones that start the snowball that get them back into it. He's the kind of guy you trust for that. And someone who's, if anyone starts to get rattled, just look to Longoria and he'll be like, we got this. After what they did to me with the Rays in that 2020 World Series, pulling the pitcher when he was on fire, I've seen it all. It can't get worse than that. So when it comes
he
to
was with the Giants then, and that
okay, my apologies, but you get my point. It can't get any worse than that either way. But as long, I think having that veteran there to kind of keep the ship right if things get a little bit rocky or dicey as well.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it's just one of those things. And again, we were talking about a guy we're not expecting a whole lot of offense from him. Like he might hit 200 in this series, but he might just be that guy that gets up in a crunch situation and sends the other team home packing. And that's just something that you need. You need to have that kind of trust in a guy. And I was just checking to see if I could see how one, which was his rookie year. Unfortunately, he's only been to one, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, and as you mentioned too, he might hit 200, he might go 2 for 10, something like that. But those 2 hits are going to come with the bases loaded, or or one in the 8th inning to drive in the tying run or something ridiculous like that as well too. That's just kind of the nature of how it would go with him. But that'll do it for the World Series. But as we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier too, NBA season kept tipping off yesterday as well too. We are an NBA opening week. Yesterday we got the Nuggets starting their defense of their title against the Los Angeles Lakers. And then we also had the Phoenix Suns taking on the Golden State Warriors. And so not too much surprise, the Denver Nuggets kind of take care of business against the Lakers as well. They're able to walk away with a 12-point win. And then we saw the Warriors unfortunately come up a little bit short against the Phoenix Suns, in which Devin Booker went absolutely ballistic. And I'll go and start the first game. The one that stuck out to me was Anthony Davis scoreless in the second half. We know he's a bit of an up and down player. 17 points in the first half, great. 0 in the second half, not good. Concerning as well was 1 rebound in that first half, if I'm not mistaken. 1 rebound. It's hard. We know your job is to try and deal with Joker, and that is a problem in itself. That's going to drain you, but you can't have 1 rebound at 6'10" with his athletic skill set and his length. You can't have 1 rebound. You can't be getting. The Nuggets are tough. No, I don't think anyone really was surprised that they lost by 12. But Anthony Davis, he needs to. You've been asking for it for 3 years. He needs to finally come through for you and start playing like that top 5 player that he so easily could be.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you had to guess, who would you say was the number 2 scorer on that team?
I'm gonna guess LeBron, but
No, number 2 last night for the Lakers.
Oh, number 2. Okay, so LeBron was 1, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he had 21. So number 2, what was it? D'Angelo Russell,
Taurean Prince, the guy who was a washout in Atlanta, washout in Minnesota, ends up number 2 scorer for the Lakers in tip-off night. No, not at all. I mean, we're looking at a Nuggets team on the other side. Jokic gave you 29. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope gave you 20. Jamal Murray gave you 21 points. Aaron Gordon gave you 15. Michael Porter Jr. 12.
Your starting lineup, everyone hit double digits.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, I mean, yeah, everybody on the starting lineup for the Lakers did hit double digits. The problem is LeBron at 21, Taurean Prince at 18, Anthony Davis at 17, Austin Reeves at 14, D'Angelo Russell at 11. By the way, none of these guys had double-digit rebounds. None of them had double-digit assists. Which, on the flip side of things, Michael Porter Jr. and Nikola Jokic both have double-digit rebounds. And, of course, Nikola Jokic gave you double-digit assists. Does that surprise anybody? Probably not. But it's important to look at, because you look at the Lakers team, what's the one thing that you need with the LeBron team? You need ball movement. You need shooting. You need guys that are going to go out there and actually be able to give you averages every single night. If I look at that team, I'm not looking at a team that's going to be exciting to go down into the end of the season. I think they'll still make the playoffs because of the Lakers. They have LeBron, they have Anthony Davis, but there's a lot of worry there. I mean, their bench gave them really not a whole lot. Gabe Vincent 6, Reddish 7, Hachimura 6, Christian Wood 7. Again, nobody cracked over 5 rebounds there. It's Gabe Vincent gave him 2 assists. I mean, there's got to be more from this Lakers team. I mean, you can't. Jackson Hayes gave you 1 rebound in 7 minutes, and that was his only stat. Talk about a kid who in college was averaging about 15 and 10. So you got to do better. Look, if you're Lakers, you got to do more. There's no excuse for this. I don't know. I know, again, it's the Nuggets. Yes, it's the reigning champions. Blah 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 blah. They don't play defense. Nikola Jokic is an obvious person who does not play defense. Let's not kid ourselves and think he does. You have one guy who doesn't play defense on their team. So what should you do? Maybe, I don't know, attack the big stick in the middle who doesn't play defense. It seems like a great concept for me. I digress. I could literally complain about the Lakers and people's game plans against the Nuggets all day long, but the teams that have been successful against the Nuggets, they attack Jokic, they attack Jamal Murray, they make them make decisions between the two of them. They put them in a pick and roll situation and see what happens. They do not attack Michael Porter Jr. They do not attack Aaron Gordon. Do not attack Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Why would you ever attack the guy that was potentially the defense player of the year 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Just don't do it. Like, don't attack the guys that that can play defense. Attack the guys who have admittedly struggled in defenses. defensive situation. So I don't know. I question a lot of things. LeBron is definitely getting older. That is for sure. That is my takeaway from this game. And Anthony Davis still looks like a kid who's playing number two in awe of what was Superman at one point in time and is now just that man.
I will say too, if LeBron's only going to play 30 minutes just to kind of keep him fresh, I mean, as you mentioned, year 21, playing more than that and getting you 21 points, that's unheard of, basically, how good that is.
Yeah.
But that's because they're reliant on other people to pick up some of the slack. And they got Taurean Prince did his job. That is great. He overachieved by a mile, but everybody else kind of underachieved a little bit there, especially AD's got to give there's no, even if it is Jokic, Aaron Gordon, all those guys that match up weirdly with him. You're Anthony Davis. We got to get 22 and 22 and 10 from you at least.
Anthony Davis averaged nearly 30 points a game against Jokic in the playoffs.
And that was because he had 40 and then he gave you 13 the next. Like, imagine if he could just gave you that actual 30 the whole way, they wouldn't have gone out in 4.
It's I don't know. It's just crazy to see. And by the way, Taurean Prince had the 4th highest minutes for the starters for the Lakers, just ahead of LeBron by 1 minute played. Still was giving you 18 points during those 30 minutes. So an impressive feat for Taurean Prince. Got to give that credit to him. But I think the you look at the rest of the Lakers team and you're just like, what are we doing here, guys?
Luckily,
but then again, I'm not a Lakers fan, so I'm happy to see him lose every time.
Luckily, they got 81 more games to figure it out. Probably a little bit less, but you got plenty of time, and you're probably not going to play the Nuggets every night, so that makes your life a little bit easier. Some other teams you will have to play also went to battle last night. The Warriors took on the Suns, and interesting, quite back and forth game. Still was very weird to see Chris Paul in that Warriors uniform. Still going to take me a few games to get used to that. And then for the Suns, Kevin Durant was able to kind of coast and relax a little bit, give you just a nice casual 18 because Devin Booker decided to go absolutely off and give you 30 plus. And honestly, when we look at this, we both have the Suns as a top 2 team in our seedings and our predictions, and I'm feeling pretty good about that right now. I was curious how these pieces were going to fit. They'll find a way. I feel like they will find a way. The hot hand will take over like Devin Booker did. The other two will wait their turn, basically. Not wait their turn, but they'll be there for when the shots are open. Like they won't sit in the corner and pout, but they won't force and demand the ball. So I think at least with Booker and KD, they have the dynamic going. I'm really not concerned about Bradley Beal playing with John Wall at the height of his powers. He was the guy in Washington when they were a mess. He played alongside Russell Westbrook. He's shown the ability to play alongside more ball dominant players. So I think I feel pretty good about it if they can stay healthy right now. They looked really good. Jokic looked pretty good there. And the Warriors, we've gone through this for almost 10 years now. The Warriors don't even play basketball until January. Or until Christmas Day. That's the first time they try. So I'm not going to judge them or even think they could be 0-15 going to Christmas. And I won't even be worried about them at this point.
Yes, to all the above. With the Warriors. No, I want to go talk about the Suns for a second though. We talked about Yusuf Nurkic in the lead up in our predictions. We need him to do 2 things: score when you have an opportunity, when you have the advantage, just put backs, and get rebounds. Well, guess what? He got 14 rebounds, and guess how many points he gets?
Yes,
14 points. So you look at that. That's absolutely exactly what you want him to do. You mentioned KD kind of just letting D-Book take the lead. Well, he still gave you 10 rebounds. KD did. He still ended up with a double-double with 18 points. Kicked in 3 assists. Not something you expect a lot of. And Devin Booker obviously is 6 boards, 8 assists with Bradley Beal out. So he did take a lot of the point forward roles, I guess, in that with that team. Gave you 32 points nonetheless. So that ball movement was working for the Suns. On the flip side, the Warriors still kind of look like the Warriors. I know they lost 108-104. But you got Klay Thompson giving you 15. Andrew Wiggins giving you 10. You got Chris Paul giving you 14 and 9. By the way, gave 6 rebounds too, by the way, with Draymond out. So interesting to see there with Chris Paul. Not a guy, obviously a guy who's in his career as a point guard has given you a lot of rebounds, but just still interesting to see that he's this old, still getting you those long rebounds. Steph Curry, 27 points. Jonathan Kuminga kicked in 12 after his big preseason. So you need those, you need those points with Draymond out. Obviously, somebody's going to have to step into that Draymond role, I guess, technically. But until Draymond comes back, I don't think this team really gives too much hoots about where they end up at. I think this is a team that, they're more comfortable going to the playoffs as a 6 and 7 seed, or maybe a 5 and 6 seed, than as a 7 and 8 seed, or then as a 1 and 2 seed nowadays, just because they're like, we don't care. We'll play our 3 games at home and win all 3 of those, and then go win one somewhere else. They just, at the end of the day, the Warriors are a team that I'm not worried about in the regular season. Unlike the Lakers, I'm worried about the Lakers at all times because you have all that talent, but it just never seems to get put together. Whereas on this side, the Warriors, it's like it'll be okay, guys. Like Draymond will come back, you guys will be fine. All the glue will mesh. Chris Paul will continue to give you those assists. He'll continue to lead the team. But my curiosity is piqued to see how Draymond and Chris Paul handle their point roles. Like, I mean, realistically, they're both leaders in alpha dogs in their clubhouses throughout their careers. So it's gonna be interesting to see how those two match up when they come back. But on the flip side of things, Suns, man, I can't wait to see what happens when Bradley Beal is actually mixed into this team. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Three-headed monster of all shapes and sizes, and this one is gonna be a lot of fun because Bill is probably the most unselfish of the three. So he'll probably be the guy that you don't see as many 30-point, 20-point games from. But you know what? When he has his night, I imagine both of the other two will be like, "Oh, here you go, sir. Take 50 tonight, please. We'll give you all the assists. We'll get all the rebounds. It's okay." So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about both of these teams. It's tip-off night, so I'm not, this game I'm not reading a lot into. The Lakers game I'm a little more into because LeBron has statistically liked to start out the seasons with wins. When he does, he has a great season. When he doesn't, it's usually a rough season for his team. So that one I read a little more into.
The last things I'll mention on that is you mentioned once Bradley Beal comes back for the Suns, they didn't even have, you mentioned not only was he out, but the guy in his spot, Grayson Allen, gave you 0 points. So, like, that's a big goose egg in your starting lineup. I know Eric Gordon played technically more minutes off the bench, but once Bradley Beal goes in that role, you're not going to get 0, so that makes them even more dangerous. And for the Warriors, they shot 35% from the field and 23% from three in that game. That's not going to happen again. Steph's not going to go 8 of 20 and 4 of 14 from three. Chris Paul 4 of 15. Wiggins 4 of 12. That's probably not going to happen again. You only lost by 4. I think they will take that all day as well, too, as you mentioned, without Draymond. And maybe, just maybe, somehow this Suns team can play pretty good defense somehow. Maybe they force that. It's Frank Vogel is the head coach who, in theory, feels like the opposite of coach for guys like Devin and Kevin, Bradley Beal, but maybe it's the opposite of Trax thing where a defensive head coach is able to get the most out of guys who are known for offense. Who knows? It's week 1. It's game 1. It's opening night. I won't go through it. I won't go too far into those weeds, but wouldn't that be something if Frank Vogel unlocks some defensive potential from this team as well, to where they just saying how interesting. We might have to look at our picks and be like, we both had thought highly of the Suns, but maybe not highly enough if Frank Vogel's got to play in defense.
I'm not worried. I think they'll still finish 2 or 3 in the West. I don't
defense
think
or not, yeah. But if they play defense, they might be one and done.
No,
like one.
I'm sorry. No. I refuse to accept it. I will stand by the fact that the Nuggets will probably end up the 1 seed. And it's just because of who the Nuggets are in their DNA. I think that's why they're going to be the 1 seed.
We agree. Like I'm just saying, if the Suns play defense, it's going to be dangerous. That's all.
Yeah. To me, this is why I think I'll just cap this off. This is why I think the Nuggets will be there. They are still the only team that can utilize the current day's rule set with a true center. So, I mean, sorry, Joel Embiid, but your team doesn't use the current rule set very well with you at center. They have to have some offsets there. So, I don't know how the Nuggets have been able to do it, but congratulations to the coaching staff there for the Nuggets. You are able to use the rules to your advantage with a center in the game.
You have unleashed a 7-foot Larry Bird, and good luck everybody else right now. But
7-foot Magic Johnson.
Magic Bird, Larry Johnson. Either way, is not pretty great. We could do this all day, and it's probably going to take the rest of the show. But that's going to do it here for the tip-off. That's going to now take us into Kelcey's second favorite part of every show, and that is, of course, the main event. Main event, we'll be going through some highs and lows of the sports world as well. I'll go and start. We'll kick it off with highs. I'm going to keep mine quick, simple, and fast for the first one. I'm going to the rookie wide receivers right now, especially this last week. Rookie wide receivers making some noise. Obviously, Zay Flowers has been there all year making some noise, but one of the leading. Same with Puka Nacua. They continue to do things. But also, let's not forget about what Jordan Addison did on Monday Night Football without Justin Jefferson against the San Francisco 49ers. He was a grown man out there, which I didn't think I'd say about a 160-pound receiver who's 21 years old. But the touchdown where
he was a grown man after he had the ball taken away from him like he was a small child, and then he turned into a grown man.
And then he took the ball right back from I think it was Ward as well, and did the exact same thing.
Yeah, same guy who did it to him. He did right back. 2
touchdowns north of 100 yards. Outstanding performance. Josh Downs against the Browns, a number 1 ranked defense as well, too. 100 yards and a touchdown as well, too. An absolutely incredible performance there. There's already 4 of them that we've talked about as well. Obviously, there are some others like we want to see Quentin Johnson start getting the ball, but Jackson Smith and Jigbo without DK Metcalf gets his first career touchdown on top of it as well. So just going down that list, that's 5 rookie receivers just out of the gate that popped off my head too that had really, really good weeks. And we've seen each week they slowly start to climb. And I think when it comes to the end of the year, especially because Bijan for some reason isn't getting the ball, which we'll talk about later as well too, and Arthur Smith is incompetent, I don't think we're going to see him and Jahmyr Gibbs being banged up as well. I think the offensive rookie of the year, if it isn't CJ Stroud, if he plateaus, there's also Tank Dell, I didn't mention, who's been out with a concussion for a couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot of receivers to choose from for offensive rookie of the year if CJ Stroud doesn't run away with it. Like, let's say he cools off. And good luck picking that one for everybody. I mean, Puka at the beginning, seeing Downs and Addison recently, Zay Flowers in the middle. It's going to be a very, very busy offensive rookie of the year race unless CJ Stroud just continues where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see on how that goes. I do agree, though, that this week was a good week for younger receivers, especially Jordan Addison, especially for my fantasy football team. Unfortunately, it was not a team I got to set the offensive lineup for, so I didn't get to be like, oh, I was smart enough to set the lineup for. It was just best ball, so he ended up obviously being my quote-unquote starter. But it made me look good. I mean, hey, that was great, considering I don't have a quarterback in that league because Aaron Rodgers is injured. But yeah, no, it's take the positives there. But it was a good week for rookies, for rookie receivers. But I'm gonna kind of keep in that same vein. I'm gonna go rookies here as well, but I'm gonna go one specific rookie. Quarterback happens to play for a team with another quarterback who just happens to be injured. That is the Chicago Bears, and that is Tyler Bagent. I talked about him leading up to the draft as a sneaky dark horse at quarterback that could make some teams very happy if they draft him. Well, guess what? The Bears are very happy that they took him as an undrafted free agent here, gave him an opportunity. He made the team. And not only did he make the team, but last weekend versus the Las Vegas Raiders led them to a 30-12 victory, giving you 162 yards, 1 touchdown. And by the way, also gave you 3 rushes for 24 yards. Very impressive game for a rookie, especially a team who needs wins right now in the Bears. Take them any way they can get them. And against the Raiders, that's your best opportunity to get some wins there. But not just that, it was a lot of everybody kind of chipping in here. Obviously, Deontay Foreman, 89 yards in the game, led all rushers. But across the board, passing the ball, DJ Moore, 54 yards, 8 receptions, 32 yards for Darnell Mooney, 31 for Foreman, 19 for Scott. Mercedes Lewis got 16 yards receiving as well. So who knew he was still in the game? I thought he was just a blocking tight end. There were two more receivers with yardage and another receiver with a catch but no yards. So did spread the field out, did look good. Maybe there's a possible quarterback controversy in Chicago. Maybe there's not. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, a lot has been said about what Justin Fields can do there. With Justin Fields out right now, Bagent gets the opportunity, and we'll see if he can repeat it again this year or this week. But for now, you'll take what you can get, and a win is a win is a win. So good shout out to Tyler Bagent for his first victory as a start as a pro.
Wouldn't that be something that feels that the Bears, that would be something the Bears would do. They don't crater for Caleb or get destroyed for Drake, but they don't keep Justin Fields. They go with Tyson Bagent as well too. Somehow they find a way to split the difference right down the middle of what everyone else is predicting. But it's a good game for them, right?
By the way, they go up against the Chargers this week.
In theory, because that pass offense is terrible, he should be able to show out. But that in theory. So we'll have to see, because Brandon Staley's terrible, as we have come to very, very much know. So you know what? Maybe how lucky is that your first 2 career starts with a Bears team, you get to go against the Raiders, missing their starting quarterback and playing Brian Hoyer, objectively the worst backup quarterback ever. And then on top, then you get the Chargers, the objective worst deep pass defense of all time. So you know what? He's gonna make a case for that starting role. You found 2 great games to go out there and do it with.
Yeah, and by the way, how much is he unheralded? I missaid his name 6 different times. It's Tyson. You're right. It's Tyson Bagent. By the way, what college? Do you know what college you went to?
I know at one point he's playing like the United Colorado Miners League 1 year ago or something goofy like that.
No. He's straight out of college. It is the Shepherd University Rams, and I think that's West Virginia. Set the NCAA record for passing touchdowns, by the way, with 159.
And he had a good combine too from what
had a fantastic combine. Yeah, fantastic combine running and throwing. So it was impressive to see him all around. I said it in the lead up that he might be able to make a team happy, or at least very least give you a great practice squad quarterback to go against. But yeah, Bears pretty happy right now.
Absolutely. So definitely, I'm going to keep in the same vein you mentioned there as well too. We're going to keep things rolling. You talked about a team from the NFC North. If we remember a couple weeks ago, one of my lows was the entire AFC North. They deserved it at that point. But I'm going to go with highs of the entire AFC North this week. Since I said they were the worst division, they have not lost a game. No one in that division has lost a game since I said that. The Ravens had arguably the best win of the entire season of what they did to the Lions. Not just the fact that they won, but the fact that they ramrodded them. The Steelers, it was ugly, but we honestly every win they do is ugly. Like we're not surprised. It's the fact that they're still 4-2 despite having objectively one of the worst offenses in the NFL and a very miserable offensive coordinator. I don't think they've scored 30 points offensively with him at the helm. Like it's been very rough. The return of Deontay Johnson might help that. We'll see.
Yeah.
And I can't really fault the Bengals because they didn't play, but they have won 2 in a row since I last pooped on them, including that win against Seattle. Then the Browns, they're 4-2. PJ Walker is that at the helm is PJ Walker at the helm too, coming in relief duty, and by that I mean mostly Myles Garrett managing to score like 21, but having 17-point swings by himself as well. So when I look at the AFC North, since I had them as a low, they have not lost a game, and there have been 2 bye weeks in there, but they have not lost a game since then. They've continued to roll, and it's getting awfully competitive now. Obviously, the Bengals are still at the cellar, but they're 3-3 coming off a bye, and if Joe Burrow's calf is healthy after this, that man is 5-2 after a bye week and 7-0 after a bye week. So you have to imagine the rest of the way. If trends continue, who knows? With this AFC North, it might end up actually finishing and looking like how we predicted it before the season, even though the starting point made absolutely no sense. But the finish, it might make sense, especially now that the Browns have a quarterback that is healthy for now, at least for another week. The Bengals look like they have a quarterback that is healthy. Lamar might be the MVP right now, debatably, of course. And then the Steelers, well, I guess TJ Watt could be a defensive player of the year candidate. The Steelers, they just find a way to win. They don't make any sense. They don't get a single player shout out other than TJ Watt, who adds an interception, I guess. But the AFC North is looking darn good again.
I can accept all of that, except for the fact that the Browns getting any credit for that win.
Okay, Myles Garrett, I will give him credit because of what he did individually. Everything else, though, you agree with.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, okay.
I mean, he 2 sacks that were forced fumbles, including one for a touchdown, and practicing his new Cleveland Cavaliers minority ownership by jumping over and blocking a field goal.
Yeah, that was going to be my other high. My other high was Myles Garrett, buying the Cavs, but now that's taken away from me.
No, I'm transitioning into it, so you can get going now.
No, I don't actually have very many comments on that. I just think it's a great idea for him. It also tells you how much he's been paid in his career and how much he's done well saving his money and making smart business ventures. Also, Wakaina Waters, or why what I don't know, it's Wakaina, something like that. His water company does a really great job. Anyways, I'm just gonna skip on forward, and that is gonna go straight to. I didn't want to do it, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelcey. With Travis Kelcey with Taylor Swift in attendance 2 games, Travis Kelcey is averaging 99 yards a game, nearly 100 yards. Now, as my favorite thing about this entire thing, the stat line says left to his own devices, so AKA no Taylor Swift in attendance, 46.5 yards per game. Surprising. But here's the part here's the kicker to it all. Andy Reid comes out and says after the game, Travis Kelcey, he keeps getting better with age. But you know what? Taylor Swift can stay around as long as she wants if she keeps attending games. That tells you all you need to know about it. I don't know if there's maybe some subconscious there. It's the ultimate, as a Cowboys fan, if anybody remembers the Tony Romo, was it Jessica Simpson situation with showing up in the pink bedazzled jersey and then him losing every game she showed up to. Yeah, let's not forget that did happen at one point in time in the NFL. And there was a lot of talk about team players who have girlfriends showing up to games and they don't win. Aaron Rodgers had that same issue with Danica Patrick showing up to games. He lost every game that Danica Patrick showed up to. Everybody, if you don't remember, they did date for a short period of time. But on the flip side of things, Taylor Swift seems to have found the right person to pick in the NFL and help succeed, and that is Travis Kelcey, as if the Chiefs needed any other reason to be good. Now you have the entire Swiftie army on your side. Look, I don't know. I didn't really want to go into this one, but it's a weird stat, and it's one of those ones that just makes you laugh. It's just oh, football. type of conversation, and it's just, I don't know, it's hilarious. But look, gotta give credit where credit's due. I mean, there's obviously something happening there that Travis Kelcey wants to put on a show for somebody, and why not the greatest showman in our generation in Taylor Swift? So maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but yeah, really cool thing to see, nonetheless.
Absolutely. I mean, whenever you have the lady around, you always want to show out a little bit. Nobody want to look like a weenie in front of their lady. And then when you have arguably the most famous lady in the world, it just hits different too. So you got for Travis A. Honestly, if I'm Andy, when you got the blessing of Big Red himself, that's all you need at this point too. So hopefully if she doesn't show up to playoff games.
Secret matchmaker Big Red, by the way. Evidently, somehow Big Red took credit for this one at some point in time.
I don't know how, but you know what? I'm not one to argue with Big Red at this point as well, too. As long as Patrick and Brittany don't get jealous, it is all good. And as long as Jackson just stays out of the way.
Just get out of the box, Jackson. Just
go away.
Just go away.
Just keep your hands where we can see them at all times and stay out of the way. That's your only job at this point.
Stay out of all pictures, please, sir.
Out of also anywhere a camera or a phone can get your attention. Just stay away. Just go.
By the way, I guess what there was a secret handshake between Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes during the game as well.
A couple different ones, and then one where Jackson got in the way and did spirit fingers too. Like they got a thing going now. So we're not gonna get into that one though. We're gonna keep this as a high. We're not gonna let it drift in lows.
Yeah, let's not drift that in the low category.
Let's just go jump right into lows. And you alluded to it earlier, so that's gonna be my first lows. I'm looking at professional sports officiating, and my goodness, was this a rough week? And it's been a rough year overall, but this week especially felt bad. You mentioned the Browns game too, where at the end of the game, even the NFL allegedly has basically said, yeah, we made a mistake with a couple of those calls that directly affected the game. You look at the Eagles and the Dolphins game, the Eagles had 0 penalties called on the entire game, and you saw some of them on the Dolphins. It's like, I'm sorry, what? Like what? The officiating this week was just rough. We're not even getting directly into the college football one as well too, because there were some rough ones in college football. NBA officiating last night, there were some rough ones. Like the one that's sticking out is Jamal Murray getting basically punched in the wrist on a 3-point shot, and there's like, no, it's cool, and it's right in front of the official too. Baseball, I haven't seen it quite as much. Like there's always gonna be umpires or strike zones, a little bit of variation here and there.
I was about to say, on the flip side, baseball has been great this postseason. A dude literally was just shy of calling a perfect game as an umpire. He missed one ball. He called it a strike.
Exactly. So we won't include baseball in this, but the rest of professional sports officiating and refereeing, you make so much money. Just hire full-time officials that have one letter of the law. Don't bring in a middle school teacher that does it as a fun side gig. Just get full-time officials with their benefits and a reasonable salary of whatever it might be, 50, 60, 70, whatever works for you. Have them basically make it their year-round job. So even in the off season, they're basically getting trained. They know the rule book by hand. There's a letter of the law. You take away subjective as much as possible, because it's just kind of ridiculous sometimes how it can go from week to week to week. And then, of course, it turns social media fans into the most toxic humans who will say F these refs, and the next week, like, nah, you're just bitching about the refs, which that part's funny, I guess. But I'm just when you make that much money, especially when you're not even factoring in TV deals and the gambling and fantasy sports money that comes with it too, you can afford to get 16 referee crews and pay them full time.
Yeah, this is my thoughts on refereeing this last weekend for all sports other than baseball.
I would like to challenge that, because that was simply not a gruesome enough sound, but the idea was there.
The best I got is you got to work with what we got here. No, I think we've long. If you have watched this listened to this podcast or watched us on this podcast for any amount of time, you know my disdain for current refereeing systems and the desire to have a complete overhaul. And at this point in time, bring in the robot referees. I don't care anymore. I'm so done with this. I've called it what we've had year of the ref 1, 2, and 3. I think this is 4 or 5. I ran out of seasons or which edition this is of year of the ref. If you guys don't know, year of the ref is what happens when the refs decide they want to take control of the season, take control of the narrative, and they blow their whistles unnecessarily. You start to see end of game situations not played out, or they referee a tight game the whole game, and then at the end of the game, it's like all of a sudden free for alls, or flip that, it's a free for all game, and then at the end of the game, it's nip and tuck. I mean, you literally just will call anything. Don't even get me started. Like this is just 100% a low, not just this last weekend, but for like the entirety of the last 5 years since COVID. It feels like it gets worse and worse every year. There's always something that is just so egregious. And I'm glad you didn't even go into the college one because there's Ohio State probably shouldn't have won that game. Let's just say that.
What I will say is no one's expecting officials to get it right 100% of the time. It's the blatant what the heck was that? Like when you have the officiating crews that don't call anything and then they keep it that way. So like where it's like, wow, that was PI, but they haven't called that all game. People tend to accept that a little bit more than the other ones where it's really everyone's pissed when they don't get the PI call for the team they're rooting for, obviously, or the one that they have money on. But at least it makes sense if it's like 3 penalties all game. It's like, well, they're just letting them play. And as long as someone's getting clotheslined or blatantly personal fouled, that's why I think they just need to find a way to. They need to have professional crews all trained the same way, all full time. It's their year-round gig, their 360 days a year or whatever it is, where you can eliminate subjectivity as much as possible.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly agreed. I don't think we need to go into much more than that. I think that's a good place for us to stop that one. Next low, I'm going to go with Utah, University of Utah. I know they did come off a big win against USC. Now have 6-1 on the season with a big win against USC on their resume, knocking USC into a 2-loss situation. But here's the negatives. Coming out of that game, Cam Rising has now been officially ruled out for the rest of the season, as has their number 1 tight end, both top 2-round projected draft picks. And the tight end Keith, he is now out for the rest of the season as well. Look, they've done a great job to this point of playing without all their talent. Cam Rising, we're talking about a guy who could make a lot of NFL teams happy with a late round pick, and especially now coming off this knee injury, he's probably going to be a 4th, 5th rounder. But you're talking about one of the 5 best quarterbacks when he's actually playing in college football, you would think. And tight end wise, Keith, he is a top 5 tight end coming out of the draft this year. It's going to be a situation now where Utah has to figure out a way to win. Kyle Whittingham has to figure out a way to win in this tough Pac-12 with 1 loss already. I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but it's going to be interesting to see. They got a lot of, still got a lot of tough games left to play this season. But I'm interested to see what Utah's able to do. But I do have to give them a low because that's 2 big losses this. You're coming off a big win, but then there goes your superstar quarterback who you've been playing without all been that's great, but you haven't been playing without your tight end, superstar tight end, all season. He has been making plays for these young, really cycled through quarterbacks. They've cycled through 3 different quarterbacks at this point in time with Utah. So it's gonna be tough to see, but we'll see what the Utes can pull off for this season, and maybe they can still manage their way into a Pac-12 championship. You never know.
So they are back-to-back defending Pac-12 champions. They are very well coached and a very good, well-built team. Unfortunately for them, they are no longer in the Pac-12. They are in the meat grinder with what the Pac-12 has turned into as well too. It's not the same old Pac-12 where it was just, all right, you beat up USC. That's clearly just Caleb Williams and no defense, which they just did like they've done the last couple of years. Now you got to deal with Oregon that plays legit defense and has a Heisman candidate at quarterback and 1st-round caliber receivers. Oh, there's Washington with a Heisman Trophy front-running quarterback, in my opinion, right now as well. And 2 NFL first-round receivers and plays pretty good defense, we'd say as well.
And there's also already, by the way.
What was that?
They already lost to Oregon State, so that's off the menu. But I mean, that's a tough loss too.
Oh, and then there's Washington State that's also pretty good as well. I know they're not ranked anymore because they've had a couple bad losses. But
they do not play Washington State this year, actually.
They do not? Okay, well, I'm just going down teams in the Pac-12. They might potentially have to play, even if they got to that Pac-12 championship somehow.
Colorado, last game of the season.
Yeah, we'll see about Colorado too as well, because we see they can compete with anybody, but at the same time, we'll see, especially when they can get healthy.
They have 4 games or 5 games left this season, so it's next week against Oregon, followed by Arizona State. Although that's in Utah, Arizona State in Utah, a little bit better. But however, Washington, they'll be playing in Seattle.
Good luck
against that team. Michael Penix, look out now. Arizona, they'll be playing in Tucson on November 18th. And then Colorado 2 days after Thanksgiving in Utah. So interesting game there as well, because Dion and crew, they like to travel. Their bags are Louis. So they're ready to play, especially the last game of the season. They're going to be trying to send a message for next season. So we'll see what Utah can pull out. But right now, sitting at 13th in the country, can they get themselves in the top 10 into the Pac-12? They're gonna have to pull some bunnies out of some hats or something like that. So we'll see.
I say that's reasonably 3 losses on that schedule you just named, honestly. Two that I feel really comfortable saying, which obviously anything can happen. Games don't matter about me writing them off now, but they're
Oh, by the way,
usually
Oregon is in Utah this weekend.
yeah. So either way, that's Oregon and Utah, Oregon and Eugene, Oregon and Hawaii. I feel like Oregon, especially coming off that tough game against Washington not too long ago, they're coming to make a point against another ranked team. However, if Utah runs that table and wins the Pac-12, I don't care about that one loss. Put them in the playoff. If whoever wins the Pac-12 at this point needs to be in the playoff.
Yeah, I don't know if they're. I'll be honest. I don't know. I don't think they can pull it off. But yeah, it's just
Not a chance.
this is the team that we all talked about as a potential dark horse when you consider where everybody else was. And it's tough to see that despite all the negatives and again losing not having Cam Rising all season, you've still been able to put yourself in a 1-loss situation here with 5 games to go, and now you have the death part of your schedule where you're hoping to get them back, and now it's like, you know what? No, you're not going to get your quarterback back, but also we're going to take your tight end away too. So good luck, guys. Oh, great! Like if you're Kyle Whittingham, you're just like, really? Can I go back to the Mountain West for a week, 2, please? Just give me the Mountain West competition.
Can you at least take Bo Nix off of Oregon for us, or just do something for us? Like, can you take the week off? Like, give us something.
Can you take Michael Penix and Bo Nix off the field for a week, please?
Just let them take a week off. Let's see how it goes there. But Utah's definitely, they're interesting just because they're also not dependent on star players. But at the same time, you can only beat the horse so many times before it falls down. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on with them. But I'm gonna go into my last low as well. I'm gonna try and keep it kind of quick. It'd be remiss not to yell at Arthur Smith right now and the Atlanta Falcons. You're coming off a survival win, but the Bijan Robinson situation is a little bit from a fantasy football and betting thing, which as much as head coaches don't care about that, that's a huge part of the game. That is a huge influx of the money, especially now. That does matter. The rules about reporting your injuries too, like that's literally or injuries, questionable, all that sort of stuff is a big thing. That's always been that way. Bill Belichick used to get in trouble for not potentially doing it. And on top of that, you say he was not feeling well, so you just put him on the field for plays to be a decoy. Then in the last drive of the game, you run him into 6'5", 350-pound Vita Vea up the gut. Like that's not going to be good for a headache or being sick. I don't care if he's not healthy, then don't play him at all. It's almost like in order for it to get like the over under yards, he has to like have a certain amount of plays or has to touch the ball. It's like you did that just to spite people at the same time, which obviously they're not thinking about betting. Only head coach that thinks about betting is Sean McVay because he kicks useless field goals at the end of the game when they're down by 10 to cover the 7.5 points. But when you look at that, it's like, what are you doing, Arthur Smith? Like you already don't use your star players properly. Now you're misreporting their injury, sickness, health, and then you're not even doing the service of not playing because you run him into Vita Vea to end the game. You run him into arguably the most painful person to run into in the NFL. And that's how you end the game with him. That's how you give him his one touch of the game, basically. We're not even getting directly into the fact that you still suck at using Kyle Pitts, that when he scores a touchdown, we're all like, oh my God, what? When he cracks 60 yards, we lose our mind. The fact that Bijan doesn't even lead your team in touches from the running back spot, or the fact that Drake London is a no-show half the time. Like, we're not even getting into some of the other weird stuff that he does and the incompetence.
And yet somehow Desmond Ridder is a top 10 passing quarterback in the league this year.
Yeah. He also leads the NFL in fumbles, it feels like, as well, too, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But yeah, it is weird. I don't like anything that's happening in Atlanta. It just bothers me more and more every week. And I'm just like, come on, I thought Arthur Smith was supposed to fix Atlanta, not make it worse. Like, come on, guys.
Jonnu Smith has more targets than Kyle Pitts from last I saw right now. The backup tight end who he has a weird affection for from his Tennessee days. That's all you need. That's all.
Yeah, that's like watching Taysom Hill get the most snaps for.
Oh, we don't have enough time for me to go into that one. Go ahead. It is your turn.
Yeah, no. So, I'm gonna going in that same vein. I know it's not really that same vein. I'm just gonna talk about the Vikings. Yes, you won, but at what cost? Was it worth it? I'm gonna pull the old Thanos situation right here. You're 3-4. You could have traded Kirk. You could trade Kirk Cousins. Could trade Kirky 2 Chains. Get some vital pieces. Get you some draft capital going into a draft where you have a lot of availability for players, a lot of availability for quarterbacks coming up, as we just talked about. But what do? You go against the number 1 team in the NFC, and you say, you know what? I'm gonna shove it to you, and I'm gonna go and give my rookie wide receiver 3 touchdowns and 185 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where we're at? But yeah, I don't know. I just don't like it with the Vikings right now. You're kind of you're biting the hand that's feeding you. I don't know how many different philosophies I can come up with here, but yeah, it feels weird watching them try so hard to get these victories, knowing full well they don't have a great defense. They don't have a great offense. I mean, realistically, Kirk's back there just like, please let me survive this. You saw him on the goal line, like the 2 goal line sneaks. It's like, why are you doing this to this poor man? This man has children. This is Kirk Midwest Coles man himself, Cousins. Like, stop trying to make him quarterback sneak, bush push, tush push, whatever they want to call it this nowadays. I don't get. I would never thought I'd see the day where I'm hoping Kirk Cousins gets out of that situation and can go feast in some great land of Oz that a quarterback can feast in. Maybe send him to Dallas or I don't know, New York for the Jets. Get him out of Minnesota. Get him to a winning team. Give him a chance to go win some playoff games and get a Super Bowl. But yeah, I look at this Vikings team. I question their wins. I question why you're trying to win right now. You are 3-4 now, pretty much out of the first pick sweepstakes. Maybe you could still sneak your way in there if you don't lose it, if you don't win any more games. But you don't have Justin Jefferson. TJ Hawkinson is definitely banged up out there every week. You keep seeing him go off the field, hobble off the field, hobble back on. Your defensive line is starting to get hobbled. You have 3 rookies in the secondary. Like, it might be time. And also Harrison Smith, time to let you go as well. Like, greener pastures, my guy. But yeah, yes, they won, but at what cost?
They are technically only game back of that 7th seed, but like you mentioned,
don't remind me of that either.
Like there's still a lot of work to do. And let's say they do decide to get rid of Kirk Cochains. The 2 teams that stick out that might have I think San Francisco could be a fun one. I mean, I know Brock Purdy's their guy. He has that, but right now in concussion protocol, you know that Kirk Cousins was the quarterback Kyle Shanahan always wanted.
Man,
I know, I just pierced you through the heart with that one as well. But another one that could be fun is the surprisingly acceptably decent. The Colts could be decent to rent him for 1 year. AR's out for the year. Gardner Minshew stinks.
Yeah, get a capable quarterback in that game against the Browns. They win easy money. They beat the Browns.
Michael Pittman gets more than 2 catches. Josh Downs, we see what he's doing. Alec Pierce, like Kirk Cousins and Shane Steichen can have a lot of fun. It depends what you have to give up because the Colts aren't going to give up a lot for a 7-game rental because he's not coming back next year. They're not. It's a 1 year.
Here's my thing. Well, he would fit perfectly with the Colts.
I'm saying it's a 1 year. It's a 7-game rental at this point, though.
That's fair. Send Kirk to Indy. Send Hunter Renfrow to Indy. Now you have a 4-weapon system in the receiving core. You have JT. You have Zach Moss. Now you have Kirk Cousins to figure it all out.
And 4 tight ends on the active roster.
And now you have 4 receivers to match, which is 2 more than you had to begin the season.
I don't know how they pulled that off and still keep any of their picks, but you know what? I'm cool for it because then next year you bring in Anthony Richardson, you go 4 wide every play with one of those running backs. Yeah, just spread them out and good luck, everybody.
Hey, chances everywhere.
It won't happen, but it's good to think about in real life. And wherever Hunter Renfrow goes next, I hope he goes somewhere that'll utilize him as well, too. From selfish perspectives of being my doppelganger, as well as he went from a 1,000-yard, 100-catch receiving guy as a number 1 option to they don't even try to feed him the ball anymore. It's amazing that drop-off because apparently
you're on the field because you need to be on the field type of conversation.
The fact that him and Josh McDaniels don't even get along anymore, which I can't imagine not getting along with Josh McDaniels, honestly.
How can a guy in Josh McDaniels who literally made his name by having a bunch of little tiny white guy receivers play slot and do the things that Hunter Renfrow can do, and Hunter Renfrow can do them better and more accurate, and he's bigger and faster, and yet Josh McDaniels like, no, you're not good enough for me. I'm sorry. Is he not bad enough? Maybe that's what you meant. He's not former quarterback enough for you. Like, I don't know where we're going here.
Was he drafted too high for you, I guess? Like, was that, I'm sorry, is that 5th round selection just a little bit?
Was Eastern Washington too big of a school for you? Did you need him to go to East, Northwest, South, Central, Middle School?
I'm sorry, was him winning a national championship at Clemson and carrying Deshaun on his back too good for you? Like, I'm sorry. I digress. We won't get too far into that because that's going to take us now into Kelcey's favorite part of every show. And that is, of course, crunch time, which you got a little tease of a not planned crunch time there, but outlier.bet /HighLowSports. Bet smarter, not harder. Get everything you need on betting odds, trends, and help yourself win some money. Kelcey, I kind of forced in a little crunch time there, so I'm going to let you take the reins here for what we have in crunch time.
Absolutely. It is West Coast domination season, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about the Super Bowl or the World Series earlier this season, or earlier in the episode, and I'm getting back to it right here and right now. Did you know since 2010, there have now been 14 matchups in the World Series? 11 of the 14 matchups have featured an NL or AL West opponent. 11 of the 14. The 3 that didn't, we're talking Central teams here. We're talking that was a matchup between the Royals at one point in time. And in a game, there was the Red Sox and somebody else, and then the big one being Cleveland and Chicago that everybody remembers as the only games to not feature an AL or NL West team. And by the way, of those 11 series that featured an NL or AL West team, there were 8 of them featuring an AL East or NL East team in as an opponent. So, look, I'm not saying it's just a West Coast thing, but there's been 11 out of the last 14 that have featured an NL West or AL West opponent, and it just keeps getting better and better. So, when is it time to finally get rid of this West Coast East Coast bias bull crap that continues in the continues in baseball? Maybe start some West Coast games earlier in the day so you don't have that 10-10 start time. That'd be great. But look, at the end of the day, West Coast teams continue to make a push for themselves. Now you have the Diamondbacks in there. And by the way, outside of the Padres, every NL West team has made the World Series in the last 10 years. Last 10 years, including even the Rockies.
Which, of course, that is fitting because the Padres, of course, being a San Diego team, we all know how cursed they are perpetually as well, too, on top of it. So really every NL West team that doesn't have a giant black cat sitting in the organization.
Yeah, I mean, technically you can say every NL West team has made the NL Championship Series, but as far as the World Series, 4 out of the 5. Not a bad number.
What little bit of California love, I guess, and take that East Coast bias. Now we just need some of the Midwest and Central teams to start getting so they can say, take that, you coastal elitists, but one step at a time.
Yeah, by the way, the Astros and Diamondbacks both have the most number of appearances with 4. Giants have 3, and the Rangers now have 3.
That will do it. And then the Dodgers in there a couple of times as well, too. So, you know what?
Yeah, they're the ones with 4.
Okay, sorry, you said Diamondbacks.
Yeah, Dodgers and Astros both have 4.
Yeah, gosh, you said Diamondbacks. You threw me off. It's like that.
Oh, no, my bad. Diamondbacks only have the 1.
I was say, hold on now. Like you had my gears turning. Like snakes alive again. Like yeah, I'm had it with these mother effing snakes on this mother effing plane.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's time. Oh, and then again, I don't really want the Rangers to win either. So, go umpires for 100%. I want to see a perfect game umpired. That's what I want to see.
Go sports.
Yeah,
I'm just honestly, I just hope it's a 7-game series and it's a doozy. I just want with really good umpiring on top of it as well. So I just hope it's great baseball nonetheless.
But but I mean, you mentioned earlier, don't bet on the series.
No.
Unless you are a Diamondbacks or a Rangers fan, don't bet on the series. Don't do that to yourself. You're gonna be so disappointed. And if you bet for somebody to hit a home run, guarantee they're going to strike out. And if anybody wins a bet and they win a major same game parlay or major parlay during the World Series, please send that over. Like send over the picture proof because I want to eat my own words. I just don't think this is a series where you want to try to play these parlays because there's just so much craziness that's going to happen.
I don't trust anything. You bet money lines, and what you do is you bet the money line for both of them. So no matter what you win and lose, you cover your butt. You just kind of hope the underdog wins at that point.
I'm
to get you
pretty much betting the overall series,
which means it's gonna be a pitching showdown somehow.
Yeah, I don't think I can bet the under during any of this series.
And not at all, but
unless the under's like 14.
Exactly. Maybe bet Corbin Carroll will steal a base. Maybe like if I can do a full series bet for that, I would to consider that, but not like he will steal one base this series. Okay, I'll take that bet. But like that's about it. Not going on a game by game basis. But that's going to do it here for the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all for joining us here this Wednesday evening, or if you check us out one of your favorite places that you see podcasts, be sure to jump in on our YouTube page. Check out Tier Tuesdays where we rank the NFL teams every week as well. And don't forget, we have Fantasy Fridays and DJ's Best Bets on the weekends as well, too. Help you win some money in football or get extremely mad at guys like Arthur Smith like I do. But that's going to do it for us here this week. We'll see you all again next week.